Hi guys, it's Kay. So today we are making this buttery toffee. It tastes so super yummy and it's pretty easy to make. Anyone would love it. So let's go ahead and take you over what you're gonna need to make this yummy toffee. So you're going to need some butter. Today I am using salted butter. I know normally we use unsalted butter, but today we want the salty goodness. You're going to need some semi-sweet chocolate chips, some sugar, some salt, some nuts. The nuts are completely optional and you can use any type you like. Today I am using pecans. You're going to need a candy thermometer, a heat-resistant spatula, an offset spatula, a cookie sheet with some non-cook spray, and then you're also going to need a cutting board with a knife. And lastly, to prepare everything in, you're going to need a skillet. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is work on melting the butter. I've already put mine in the pot to get a head start, but it's just the butter. I stuck it in, that's all I did. To that, I'm going to go ahead and add my sugar and my salt. You want to let this cook until everything has melted. Today I'm going to be using a candy thermometer because you do want to try to get this to 285 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a type of candy that we need for the toffee. It's basically caramel, except for one, we're using regular sugar instead of brown sugar, and two, we're making it where it's not going to be soft. It's going to be a hard kind of caramel flavor. So I'm going to let this melt. Once it starts boiling, I'm going to add my candy thermometer and we are going to let it heat up to 285 degrees. Once I get almost there, I will show you guys what it's going to look like, but I'm just going to work on getting this boiling. So as you can see, my mixture has started to boil. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is add my candy thermometer. You can get these anywhere really, craft store, Walmart, Target. I have the kind where it has a little clip on the back so you can clip it to the pot. They also have one, and this is a bigger one, they also have one that's kind of like a needle that you can use too. So I'm just going to stick this to the pot here. All you want to do is just place it on with the clip. You don't want it to touch all the way down, but just so that you can see the temperature. And you do want to continue to stir this. You want to be extremely careful. This is very hot stuff. You don't want to hurt yourself. Even a little splash will hurt to get on. So I'm just going to let this get up to 285 degrees. Once it is done, I will come back and show you what is next. So my mixture is at about 280 degrees right now. We have about 5 more degrees to go. This took about 15 minutes to reach. As you can tell, it's kind of foamy and thick. That's what we're wanting. We're wanting that real light brown color to get a more darker brown basically. So I'm just gonna let this continue to go until we reach the 285. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and prepare my cookie sheet here. I'm just gonna spray it with some non-stick cooking spray. You want to spray this pretty good so that it doesn't stick. And then you're just gonna leave that for when your caramel gets to the 285. So it's gonna take a few more moments, maybe 2 or 3 more minutes. So I'm gonna let it continue to go, and once I get there, I will show you how to get the toffee onto your baking sheet. So I got to 285 degrees. I'm just going to try to get this caramel off here, or toffee rather, just so that we're not wasting any of it, but there's going to be a little bit that stays behind. Then just set your thermometer aside. Remember that this is extremely hot. You do not want to hurt yourself. So what I'm going to do now is just take it off the eye. Give it a real good stir. You can see that the foam did kind of go down a little bit. That's when you kind of know that it's done. So what you're going to do now is just pour that onto your cookie sheet here. And then you're just going to spread it evenly. All right, so I have it spread on there. And what I'm going to do is just give it a few taps here. I'm just trying to get it spread evenly. We're not going to cook this. We're just going to let this sit. So you want to make sure that your toffee, you leave it in the shape that you want it basically. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is take my chocolate chips while this is still hot, and you just wanna spread them all over the toffee here. While I'm doing that, I did want to mention that when your toffee is cooking, it's going to get very hot and it's going to grow in size. It's basically going to double. So when you are cooking it, you just want to make sure that you're using a big enough pan to give it that room to grow. And you just want to be extremely careful. If you have kids, don't have them in the kitchen because at any moment it can pop. You know, it does pop actually because it's bubbling. So just be extremely careful. This can cause a really bad burn if you were to get burned, so just be very careful. So once we have all our chocolate chips on there, we're just going to let them sit until they start to get glossy and you notice that they're melted. It's going to take 2 or 3 minutes or so, so I'm just going to let this sit and then show you what we're going to do next. While this is melting, we're going to go ahead and work on the nuts. If you choose to use nuts, you definitely can use them straight out of the package, or you can do like I did. I just roasted them. What I did is I preheated my oven to 350 degrees. I put my pecans on a single layer on a cookie sheet, and I let them bake in the oven for about 8 minutes until you can start to smell the aroma of the nuts. Once you can smell them, you just want to take them out, let them cool, and then you're ready to use them. I have pecan pieces here, but I want them to be a little bit smaller than what they are. So I'm just gonna basically chop them a little bit. This is completely optional. I think you can get pecan pieces that are smaller, or if you want to use almonds, you can do that too. Basically the choice is yours. If you want to leave them whole, you can leave them whole. I just like them to be a little bit smaller. So I'm just gonna chop them up here. Just like that. Set this aside. It does look like now that all of the chocolate has melted, so we can go ahead and spread it. You'll see that the chocolate chips started to get glossy. That's what we're looking for. So you're just going to take an offset spatula and just spread over that chocolate all over the toffee here, just in a nice layer. This eliminates one of the steps of having to actually put it in the microwave. Of course, if you wanted to let your toffee cool completely, you could, and then melt the chocolate and put it over that way, but this just eliminates a step. So you just want to spread this all over in an even layer. Once you have your chocolate nice and spread out, you just want to try to make sure you cover all of the toffee. You are going to see little bits of chocolate still in there, like the chocolate chips. That's no problem at all. It's just going to give it a little crunch when you bite into that toffee, and it's just going to be so good. So anyways, once you have it spread in a nice little line here, you're going to immediately go ahead and top it with your nuts while the chocolate is still wet. So once you have all the nuts on there, what you're going to do is let this sit at room temperature. You can pop it in the refrigerator, but you don't store it in the refrigerator. So the moisture of the refrigerator is going to cause it to be a little soggy and condensation, and it just doesn't work. So I like to let mine sit at room temperature. It's going to take about 1 hour to 2 hours, just depending on how your climate is and how long it's going to take to dry. But you'll know it's dry once it's pretty, it's not wiggly basically. The chocolate on top is completely matte, and you'll just know. Give it about 1 hour to 2 hours to let this dry at room temperature. And then once it is done, I will come back and we will show you how we're going to break it into pieces. So there we have it, guys. Our toffee is nice and set, and it's ready to break into little pieces. I let this set for about 2 hours at room temperature, and then when I tested it, the toffee was nice and hard, but the chocolate was still a tiny bit wet, so I placed it in the refrigerator for only 5 minutes just to help the chocolate set and get hard so that we can break it into pieces. So now I'm going to show you how to do that. While I'm doing that, I just want to mention one more time that it is extremely important that you are very careful when working with this, because it does get super hot and I would hate for you guys to hurt yourselves. But let's go ahead and get it out of the pan. So you just want to kind of twist it a little bit just to help release it. And then what I'm going to do is carefully here. I have a piece of wax paper on the counter. I'm just gonna carefully tip it over. It should release nicely. Then I'm gonna turn it back over here. And then there's our toffee. It is quite chocolatey, so just have some paper towels. But now what you really want to do is just break it into pieces. You can just push on it and it'll break. You can crack it. You just want to get it into little pieces here. I have all of my bark broken into small little pieces, and I just want to show you one quick and very inexpensive, easy way to package it. If you have a cookie tin, you could always use one of those, but I just used a few items that I had laying around my house. I just have a little cellophane bag here, and I'm basically just going to take the toffee and stack it on top of each other in there. This toffee does make quite a bit, and if you use a bigger cookie sheet and get the toffee a little bit thinner, then of course you'll have a little bit more. But you just want to get some in your bag. Once you have your toffee in your bag, I am just going to tie it with a piece of twine that I have laying around the house. And then I also have this little cute little tag that says "Be Merry." I got this from a craft store a few years ago that I had just left over that I'm going to use for that as well. So I'm just going to take the twine and tie it in a knot like that. And then I'm just going to add my tag. And then tie it in a bow. And that is it. You can give these to anyone you like, or you can save the whole thing and eat it for yourself. That's probably what I'm gonna do. But that's all I have for today. If you guys have any questions, definitely leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, guys, bye. Hard caramel. So how you make caramel is with sugar and butter. So we're just going to add our sugar to a saucepan. This isn't sugar. If you chose to use nuts, you can just use them straight out of the package that way. Or what I did is I roasted my notes.